Question 43 says that Mario plays basketball on a town league team. The table below gives Mario's scoring statistics for last season. How many points did Mario score playing basketball last season? And we're given a table there with his statistics. And as far as the answer choices go, they're all 3-digit numbers ranging from 129 to 380. Other than that, nothing stands out to me about the answers in terms of relationships or anything like that. As far as the ACT math concepts from the prompt, it looks like we're just dealing with percentages and reading a table. And then as far as a solution to this question, I'm really only seeing a formal way of solving it. So I'm going to type that out up here. So approaches, so the first way is going to be a formal way. And that's just going to involve reading the table and taking percentages, basically. So let's go back to what the question was asking us for. Essentially, we're trying to get the total number of points that Mario scored playing last season. And when we look at this table, we see that it describes the type of shot that he was taking in this column. So there's the 1-point, 2-point, and 3-point shot. And then it also tells us the number of those shots that he attempted for each one. And then finally, the percent that he actually made of each of those shots. One way we can approach this is to just calculate the number of shots that he made, first of all, in each of these categories. So for example, for the 1-point shot, he attempted 80 of them and then made 75% of them. So to calculate the number that he actually made, we can do 80 times 0.75. And the 0.75 is how we convert that percentage into a decimal. You could also divide the 75 by 100, but it's equivalent. When we do 80 times 0.75, I'll do that on the calculator here, 80 times 0.75, we get 60. So this tells us that he made 60 of those shots. And I'll just write as a column here, like made shots. And then when we do that for the 2-point shots, he attempted 60 of them and made 90% of them. So we do the same calculation, 60 times 0.90. And then that equals, 60 times 0.90. That means he made 54 of those shots. And then finally, for the 3-point shots, he attempted 60. His percentage went way down at that point. So 25% of those were made. So 60 times 0.25 is 15. So we made 15. Okay. Now, from this point, we have the total amount of shots he made of each of these point categories. We can now calculate the number of points he's actually getting from these shots. Well, for the 1-point shots, he's getting 1 point from each of these. So I'll write that as another column over here, just points made. And essentially what we can do here is, for example, for these 60 made shots, we know he made 1 point for each of those. So this is just going to be 60 times 1, which is 60. And similarly for the 2-point shots, he made 54 of those. So we can do 54 times 2, and that gives us 108. And then finally for the 3-point shots, he made 15 of those. So 15 times 3 is 45. And then the last thing is that we wanted to calculate the total number of points that he made. So we can add all these up together. So 60 plus 108 plus 45. And that should be our answer, which is 213. And that is answer choice C. Let's take a look at a couple of the wrong answers now. For answer choice B of 190, that could reflect the mistake of, for some reason, just adding up the percentages from each of these. Because if we do 75 plus 90 plus 25, which that's where the percentages were for each of those, we get 190. And then for 380, that could reflect the mistake of assuming that he makes 100% of each of the shots, because if he were to make 100% of these 1-point shots, he would get 80 times 1 for those. And if he made 100% of these, it would be, you get all 60 times 2 for the 2 points. And then same thing over here, he will have made all 60 of the 3-point shots. And when we add those things up, 80 plus 60 times 2 is 120. And then 60 times 3 is 180, we get 380, which is E. And then finally, let's think about what we ultimately needed to know here mathematically. I'll write this out again. Ultimately needed to know. Essentially, it just came down to basic percentages and reading a table. And as we saw, that was kind of like the formal approach. And other than that, this question didn't really involve that much more. So let's go on to question 44.